No money, no credit, no problem. In this episode, I'm going to address how to buy a house with no money or credit. Get ready, because you can't create something out of nothing, but you can use safe, positive leverage to accumulate wealth and own real estate. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist and a retirement planning specialist now for more than 47 years. And I've helped a lot of people be able to acquire real estate or purchase a home without using any of their money or very little of their money. And oftentimes, even if they did not have good credit at the time. Now, let me clarify at the beginning. When you watch episodes or videos about no money down, generally you are satisfying a down payment if it's required, but not with your money, okay? You can use OPM, other people's money or what have you, unless the mortgage lender is asking, is this your money or did you borrow it from your folks? And you must be truthful, you must be honest. But I have acquired many pieces of real estate and I've satisfied down payments, but very rarely do I tie up any of my money. I like to keep my money liquid and safe. So in this episode, I'm going to give you some ideas on how you can buy a home or real estate with very little money or no money, and with no credit if you have to. So let me start out and share that one of the most common ways to be able to buy a house or real estate with no money out of your pocket, and even if you don't have good credit at the time, is to find a situation like a home seller, someone who is in financial duress. They have a home, they're behind on their mortgage. They are looking for a godsend, somebody who's going to come and take that obligation off their back. So someone in financial distress, or a person who has already moved out of the house and you know that they do not need the equity in that home as a big down payment for the next home that they're moving into, because they're already in their next home. Does that make sense? So I'm going to give you some examples of when you find that out about the seller, what you can do to be able to acquire or buy the house with no money down or no credit. Oftentimes, I will look at the situation, and I've told my sons when they were 21 years old and they were looking for a home to buy, I said, listen, just go out over a few weekends and make a list of homes that you like in various neighborhoods. If you see one that says for sale by owner, take particular note of that one. Also, if they've already moved out of the house and acquired their new house, or at least they're not living there anymore, make sure you bring back that information and we will contact those sellers. Because what is it telling you? Okay. Now, either they are in financial duress or else they don't need the equity out of that home to get into their new home because they already have moved into their new home. So now you can make offers to buy their home subject to, okay, that's a phrase, subject to, or contingent upon, which is synonymous with subject to. You're going to make an offer to buy their house subject to them keeping the financing in place, their current mortgage in place, or contingent upon them carrying the contract, keeping their mortgage in place until you cash them out or you get financing even 2 years later. We have done this many, many times. So the phrase is subject to or contingent upon, and usually I am just working out the deal directly with the seller. You don't even necessarily need to close at a title company, but I would recommend it to make sure that the title passes free and clear of any encumbrances when it's time for you to take it over. So let me share with you some actual stories and examples to help you get this. So if this is intriguing you already, be sure and share, post a comment, click like, but subscribe to this Three-Dimensional Wealth YouTube channel. Why? Because I post an in-depth answer to a financial question like this almost daily. I don't want you to miss out on a lot of the strategies that you can learn. But stay with me to the end because I want to gift you a copy of our most recent best-selling book, The Laser Fund. This is book number 11, and it's a 300-page book. It's been flying off of our warehouse shelves, and you can go to laserfund.com and contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that. And there's options there to listen and learn or watch and learn to empower yourself. And you can learn about stories like these that I'm going to share right now. So let's go to my son, Emran. Right after he was married, I told him to go out and look for various homes in neighborhoods that were for sale by owner and that people had moved. He came back after a couple of weekends and he had a whole list of 20 or 30 homes. We didn't even get to the second home on the list, and in about 20 minutes, we bought a home with no money and no credit. How? In a nutshell, the story is in the book, okay? But we brought in the couple, and they were selling the home. This was like 20 years ago, 2 decades ago. And it was a nice 3-bedroom home, and I think they were selling it for about $170,000, which would be more than double or triple that now. But they had an offer for $160,000, $162,000, and I told my son to go in and offer them $2,000 more than the asking price. Why? It wasn't a hot market back then because I wanted their attention. And sure enough, we got their attention. They came to us and met, and we simply asked them a few questions. So, would you mind telling us how much you owe on this house on your mortgage? And they owed like $130,000 or something like that. And so I said, you have about $40,000 of equity in the property, and you're already in your new house, so you don't need that $40,000 of equity, correct? Well, no, we want it, but we don't need it to get into our new home. So what is that earmarked for when you sell this house? Well, we wanted to sock away that $40,000 for our 2 children's college education. Oh, great. How old are they? And I think they were 11 and 13 years old. And I go, okay, well, where are you going to put that money? They said, well, I guess in a bank or something. I said, banks? 1%? And I calculated how pathetic that would be. $40,000 would barely grow $10,000, $15,000 by the time they went to college. I said, how would you like to earn more like 7.5% interest on that $40,000, which means in 10 years, that $40,000 would double to $80,000. Well, yeah. Where can we earn that? Well, basically, with the equity in your home, you are simply leaving it there. You're carrying a second on the house. My son will make a monthly payment to you to cover your current mortgage payment, so you don't have to worry about that. And the $40,000 will accrue at 7.5% interest, and he has the right to pay you off in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years when he can refinance the property because it was going up in value. And I calculated what that would grow to for their children's college education. And they go, so what's backing this? I said, an asset you're very familiar with, your house. Do you think your house is going to go up in value? Yes. There you go. You actually then have a second trust deed on this that you get the house if my son defaults. They said, oh, this is a great deal. And we walked out 20 minutes later buying that house with no money, no credit checks. And about 2 years later, the house went up in value. He refinanced 80% loan to value and paid them off. They didn't want to be paid off. They wanted to leave the money there being credited 7.5%. So my son showed them where to earn 7.5% by using my favorite vehicle, the Laser Fund. And they still were able to achieve their goals for their 2 children. Does that make sense? The key is to be able to have a conversation with the seller. The very first home that I purchased back in 1974, I simply invested about $3,000 into fixing up the house, and then I was able to buy the house, and it appraised for enough to cover the down payment back on that very first home. The next one, I acquired the property. Once you have the property, I told the person who sold me the lot, hey, if you'll subordinate, I'm going to go use that as the down payment, because oftentimes when you go to qualify for a construction loan or for a mortgage, they will allow at least 20% to be the value of the land. And I've done that several times. I did that on a home a 6,400 square foot home, where I bought the acre lot for $75 a month. And then I told the seller of the lot, if you'll subordinate, I'm going to use this lot as the down payment to build the home. And once I build the home, then I'll be able to refinance it and I'll pay you off. We did that. It was a win-win, because I was able to go in and get a complete mortgage by having the person who sold me the lot subordinate and give me a free and clear deed to the land to use as a down payment. And then I agreed to pay them with interest when I refinanced the property. I could have bought a $750,000 home one time in less than 5 minutes, when again, it was free and clear, and they already were in their new home because they had inherited several $1,000,000. And I go, so what are you going to do with the $750,000? Well, I don't know. We don't need it for our new house. I said, how would you like to earn about 7% interest on that $750,000, secured by an asset you're very familiar with? They go, what's that? I said, your house. Let's just bypass the middleman. You just take over as the mortgage lender. And they go, that's an excellent idea. Can you move in next week? No, we decided we didn't want to move, but I could have bought a $750,000 home. And this was, again, about 15, 20 years ago. That'd be $1 million, $2 million, $3 million today. I could have bought it in less than 5 minutes with no money down, no credit. There are several ways that you can do this when you get creative. Or oftentimes you can lease or rent a property with the option to buy, which I've done many times. And as I then rent the property, I have the option to buy it for the then owing mortgage balance on the property, especially if the seller is in financial duress and the house is not worth more than what they owe. There's a lot of times where people are upside down in their house and they owe as much as the house is worth. Those are golden opportunities to walk in, lease it, rent it with an option to buy, and then you buy it for the then owing mortgage balance 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road, when it appraises for 20% more, when the market rebounds, and now you can go in and purchase the home for 80% loan to value, and the down payment has actually been accruing with you making rent or lease payments instead of just going down the drain, because you're sort of paying the down payment or building it up and using the increase in the home's value for 2 or 3 years to get it with no money down. So folks, I could give you many, many other stories. Sometimes I have found with the seller or the contractor, by simply taking over their existing mortgage or having it subject to or contingent upon them continuing to carry the contract until I refinance 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road. But remember this, it doesn't mean you don't have money. It means you're not tying up your money in an unnecessary down payment out of your pocket. You are using creative ways to satisfy the down payment or to be able to build up the money as you lease or rent with an option to buy. There's all kinds of ways to do this. So folks, if this is intriguing you and you want to know how to accumulate your money on a tax-favored basis and be able to access it like many real estate investors do, they use my favorite vehicle. It's called the Laser Fund. And so I'll gift you a copy of this 300-page book. If you go to laserfund.com, click below, and you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. and I'll fire out a copy of the book for you, and then you can begin to learn how to keep your serious cash liquid, safe, earning predictable rates of return, and then you can use leverage safely with liquidity. Leverage without liquidity is stupidity. So do it smart, acquire real estate, and you'll be able to take yourself on the road to becoming a financially independent multimillionaire like many people have by using OPM, other people's money, and making it a win-win. A win for you and a win for the seller. That always turns out best.